Hello, everybody, and welcome to Life After the Military, a show completely focused on reversing the trend of veteran suicide, homelessness, and problematic transitions by helping veterans transition from military to civilian life and strengthening the mental fitness of our active duty military members, veterans, and their families. Our show is powered by Pivotal Moments Media, an organization on a mission to strengthen mental fitness worldwide for all. Go check them out at pivotalmomentsmedia.com to learn more. My name is Lee Elias, and I'm joined as always by my good friend and co-host Howie Cohen. And we are privileged to have Sergeant Major retired Matt Quick with us today. Matt served in the United States Marine Corps and the Army for a combined 25 plus years. From 1993 to 97, Matt served for 4 years as a Marine Human Resource Specialist, then transitioned to the Army for his remaining 21 years and performed in a wide range of human capital management and talent acquisition positions. In these roles, Matt supported the Security Force Assistance Brigade, the 10th Mountain Division, the 3rd Mountain Division, the Army Forces Command, and was the executive assistant for the Army Chief of Staff, General Eric Shinseki. After Matt retired and transitioned from the Army in 2019, he worked for a short time with Fusion Technology and took a position with Higher Military for about 2.5 years. He did a short stint as the Director of Operations for the Digital Networking Professional Program until he took his current position with the Program Management Institute. Matt is also the founder and president of Army Reenlistment, which he founded in 2003. Matt further serves as the executive director of the Dylan Quick Foundation, a nonprofit formed to give back to kids with pediatric cancer. Matt, it is a pleasure to have you today on Life After the Military. Thanks for being here with us.
Hey, thanks, Lee. And that was a mouthful of intro right there. My goodness, the shit I do.
Yeah, Howie writes
Lee's a professional, man.
Yeah, Howie writes all of them. And I'm pretty sure the way Howie writes these, he goes, what else can I add in this week to see if I can mess them up? But you know what the key is, Matt? The key is just to read it really slow. We were joking before. I'm from the Northeast. We're all three of us from the Northeast. Yep. I'm talking fast now like I'm from the Northeast. But if you just add a little Southern twinge to it,
it's funny you mention that. My wife and I we went to Kentucky. Well, she's from Kentucky, and we're in the store one time, and I'm speaking to a sales rep, and she couldn't understand what I was saying because I was speaking so fast. My wife says, "Slow down, you're speaking." I'm like, "Speed your hearing up. How about that? Why is it always on me?"
Right. You can find a happy medium, but
I've never heard that one before, Matt. I love that.
Why don't you speed up your listening?
Speed up your hearing.
Look, before we even jump, I've always said this. There's a thing we have up here called the Northeast condescension, and that was a prime example of it. We're just better than you. Matt, let's jump into your military service. As we said, you served in the Marine Corps and the Army combined for over 25 years or 20 years, right? Share with our audience how you prepared and executed your transition out of the military into the private sector. What went well, what didn't go well? What would you change if you could go back, kind of knowing what you know now?
So it's funny, I transitioned twice, once from the Marine Corps to the Army. Didn't prepare at all. I just knew I was going to the Army. So it couldn't be. Going from the Marine Corps to the Army had to have been an easier life because the Marine Corps is so tough and the Army is so not. Well, that's not always that true. The transition was simple because I already had a contract, so I wasn't worried about it. Now, leaving from the Army to the civilian world or back to the civilian world, for me, it was easy. But I understand that it can be hard for many people, and it comes down to really planning. I was paying debt off for about 4 or 5 years. I graduated the Sergeant Major Academy in the Army. I started paying down debt because I realized, my God, someday they don't want this old Sergeant Major hanging around. I got to leave. So pay down all my bullshit debt, credit card debt, all that stuff. Pay it all down, pay it all off. That way I won't need a job when I retire. I'll want a job, but I won't need it. So there's no pressure. So paying down that debt removed or eliminated that anxiety of needing a job.
Right.
That was my key. That's why I say pay it down, enjoy your transition. Because it can be easy, but the fear of the unknown gets people and it really trips them up.
That is fascinating, man. I'm probably stealing Lee's words here, but we've interviewed, I don't know, upwards of about 40 folks at this point. Yeah. I don't think I've ever heard, maybe one, but I don't think I've ever heard anybody else say that they paid down debt, right? Maybe one, but that's very rare. Good for you, man.
It's a tough conversation with my wife, though. It was tough.
Right.
but I maybe slept on the couch. I don't know, but we had to do this for me to be successful after the military.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, debt is a funny thing that we don't talk enough about in society, and the pressure that can put on you. And, whether it's military transition or college transition, right? You want to minimize your debt as much as possible. And the younger you can do it, the more valuable. I mean, I'm not going to get into a financial, class here, but it's well known in the financial sphere that if you can get out of debt in your 20s and start investing, the payout later on is maybe 10 times what it would be if you did it in your 30s or 40s or 50s. So the fact that you were kind of the consciousness to do that was huge. So a little bit of financial management here. And then, when you transitioned from the Army, what was that process like?
For me, it was easy. I was I've been networking for years, and I didn't know I was networking. I didn't know what it really meant, but I had a network of people that wanted to help me out.
Right.
Even today, my kid graduated college a couple weeks ago, and I posted about it, and people are offering him jobs, offering interviews, offering opportunities, because they see that I have a network. They want to tap into that through him, which is fine. He benefits, they benefit, I benefit because he ain't come home again. That kind of stuff. So it's a win-win-win. Right. So the transition can be easy. Networking, paying down your debt, and just having those conversations. I worked 25 years in military as in the HR realm. I'm like, HR is what I am. It's who I am or what I want to do. So I was transitioning, and I took an HR class, a SPHR class. I'm like, I don't want to do HR. I don't love HR. I love people, not HR. So I shifted my whole career to helping people, which really turned into help people transition or share my experiences so they don't do the same shit that I did leaving the military.
When I look at your history of your transition, you went to work for Fusion Technology. So maybe you can describe what Fusion Technology does, what you did there, because here's where I had the problem. I didn't know squat about business. Mm-hmm. I didn't know squat about government contracting, and I went to work for a small company, a small business with one major business unit focused on government contracting, doing the things I did in the military. And that I was very comfortable with, but I didn't know shit about, profit loss, overhead, the whole litany of things you learn about business principles. And I didn't know anything about the government contracting process, the whole request for proposal process, competing for work, capture management, business. I didn't know shit about any of that stuff. That's where I had my challenge with the transition. So I'm curious, you found a job. It sounds like it was relatively stress-free. How about when you're actually on the job? How about that transition into work and what you did and what did you experience there?
Oh, no, it wasn't stress-free. So it appears like that from the outside, but so here's how I got my job: through networking. A mentor of mine, Jeff Stitzel, he was my boss in the old guard in DC, and we stayed in contact for many years. When I transitioned, he was the first one that I called. So he told me, do this, do this, do this. I did all stuff. So one day I was transitioned, I was out of the military for almost 9 months. And I was working with higher military at the time, just building a new company. He says, hey, do you want to work with me at Fusion Technology? I'm like, what is that? He explained it, did the homework. I had an interview with the partner, the CEO, to bring me on in a role that was a director of people and culture. They didn't have the position. We created it for me based on what I could do for them, which oversee training and development, oversee the DoD Skill Bridge program, build up a talent pipeline with my network. It was smaller back then, but it was still a network of built on trust. That's what they wanted. So I worked there for 6 months. I was furloughed at the pandemic. I wasn't immune to being laid off pandemic. So I get that. But being there, I learned all those things you talked about, Howie. P&L, capture. I had no idea what this shit meant, but I learned it. So now my next jobs, I'm much more experienced. I don't know, I'm not an expert in it, but I can talk that language now. Oh, P&L, yeah, I got that, you know. I'm like, but back then I was like, P&L, what the hell is this? Like
Right.
M&Ms, what is this stuff? So thinking about that, it got me to a point. So that was kind of like my practice job. They were very good to me. I had a lot of leeway, but the pandemic crushed everybody. So
Yeah.
that's what it was.
Yeah. So what I would offer, maybe a lesson learned for our audience here is if it, and certainly, you know, Matt will talk about this, I'll talk about this, is, you know, you want to start at least 2, possibly 3 years out. And to be very frank with you, I've actually come to the opinion that you start transitioning the day you actually go into the military
Not a
and do
bad
things
idea.
like Matt just talked about. Just start working on your network. I mean, if you do nothing, I don't care whether you're in 4 years, 34 years, but when you get in the military, if you just take a step to religiously commit to building out and maintaining. Now, here's the other thing, not just building it out, but maintain your network. That, I guarantee you, will take away probably half, if not more, of the stress of the transition process when you truly exit the military. But anyway, let's say you don't do that, although I encourage you to do that. If you start 2, 3 years out at a minimum, right? You know, if you, and here's the thing, you want to identify, if at all possible, as soon as possible, what you really want to do. You know, Matt identified that he did a number of interviews and kind of lined through things that he did not want to do, right? Which is a valuable, you know, we've heard this before from a number of our guests, you know, whether it's having a cup of coffee, doing informational interviews, whatever it is, do them, right? But once you identify the 2 or 3 things that you say, you know what, I really think I want to do this. If they require some kind of technical expertise, and what I'm specifically referring to, let's say you want to do government contracting, look at, maybe it's the Defense Acquisition University at Belvoir or other things online, or there's other organizations you can go to. We can start learning some of the basic business principles, some of the basic government contracting principles, so that you can take your remaining time on active duty and maybe start building up your knowledge, so you're not going in completely blind like I did. I was not smart enough to do that. But the reason I share it is, don't make the same dumb mistake I made. If you know what you want to do and you're lacking maybe the full context of what that job requires, and if you're doing informational interviews, you'll know, because you're asking people, what do you need to do to be best prepared? Take as much time as you can in your preparation and planning process for execution to maybe take some classes or bone up on that stuff, so you're not going in completely blind like I did. Because what it ultimately came down to, Matt, and it sounds like you didn't experience this, but I know you have the same kind of DNA. We want to bring value to whoever we're working for. And what was frustrating me, what caused me stress, was I felt that I was getting reasonably well paid. I was working for a great company, but I was not bringing any value. And that stressed me out, you know, more so than, and it sounds crazy, but I had more sleepless nights in the first 8 to 10 months than I did, you know, commanding at any level in combat. You know, because I felt like, at least then, I kind of knew what I was doing. I was bringing value, but in this position, I felt like I was bringing no value.
We want to be good stewards of money, of resources. I mean, the military, you're funded by taxpayers, so it is what it is. Out here, you have to either bring in revenue or cut costs to really remain valuable. So even my current job, I don't bring in money, so I'm bringing value other areas by, you know, broadening the reach, deepening the impact of what Project Management Institute is to the military, and I'll grow from there. But the military is my focus right now, because, case in point, I love the military.
Right.
The military gave me so much to me and my family. I would not want to stop giving back. It's who I am.
Hey, so let's talk about that, Matt. You know, what do you do at PMI, at the Project Management Institute? And we talked a little bit about this before we came on camera, because I was like you, right? When I think of PMI, I think of PMP certification or the other types of certification for project management, right? And they're certainly the recognized expert in that field, and they have a tremendous project management community that you can be a part of. But how about sharing with us? You've been with them for what, about 6, 7, 8 months now. How about sharing with us what PMI does and the full breadth of the offerings they have? Because I think that could be incredibly valuable to our audience.
I've been with PMI now for 6 months, and I still don't fully understand what it all is. But I'm much smarter now than I was in the military. Because in the military, we get introduced to certifications, these organizations, normally 6 months before we get out. Because, oh my God, we're transitioning now, time to get a certification, time to network. By then it's too late. So my role with Project Management Institute is it's kind of like a pre-sales or to get people to understand what PMI is. So for me personally, I'm work with Mary Kay Saliva to build the military and veteran program in PMI, MVP we call it, because an acronym, right? So MVP. So we're going to the military and talking with leadership and stakeholders, people that may be customers, to get them to know what PMI is years before they get out. Because in the Army, you get $4,000 a year for your education. So why not put some of that towards a certification? I'm not saying PMP initially, but there's free services like Kickoff, Business Continuity. These are free services that PMI offers, which may lead you to realize project management isn't for me, or project management is for me. Either way, take a free resource, use the money that the government gives you for education, and get certified. PMP is a great certification, not only for project managers, just for people to learn ways of working. It makes you more effective, more efficient. So we're building out a military and veteran program, and military spouses as well, within PMI that educates earlier and gives people the resources they need. Because even a membership, if you apply for membership PMI, it's like $130 a year, whatever it is. There's job boards, there's mentoring, there's networking, there's volunteer opportunity, there's leadership opportunity. There's so many opportunity in there, but you have to get involved. So don't wait until you need it. Get it now while you don't need it. You'll realize a year from now, I'm glad I got started.
Hey, Matt, tell me about what you're doing for spouses. That's very interesting to me, because one of the things I'm kind of shifting a little bit of time, energy, and effort on now is, and it's still very, very much focused on, lowering the high rate of veteran suicide, homelessness, and problematic transitions. But I really, in my heart of hearts, believe that military spouses are a very underserved population. And the stress that, and I don't know that anybody's, I know that the Department of Veteran Affairs is studying suicide prevention from a veteran point of view, gathering data, statistics, gathering research. I don't know that they're looking at military spouses.
A couple of years ago, I started my own thing for military spouses, just to get them connected with the right people, find out what they want to do, find out where they want to work, those kind of things, so I can really understand. Because I've had a military spouse for 20 plus years. She chose not to work, just she wanted to raise the kids. So I respect that. I could not do that. I needed to work and get out of the house, but she chose to do this. So I want to understand what a working military spouse wants to do. And a lot of them have degrees that, like master's degrees in X, Y, and Z and this, but then they say, well, I want to do this. But that's not what your degree's in. They just get educated on some cases to get educated because it's available to them. That's unfortunate, because as you move state to state, your certifications don't move with you, or your credentials don't move with you. But the White House and Hiring Our Heroes does a great job with pushing the agenda to get those transferable skills for military spouses. So
interesting.
Hiring Our Heroes has what's called an Amplify program. So if you're a military spouse, get with Hiring Our Heroes. Amplify, great program. What I saw recently from that is there wasn't enough takers for the program, so they had to cancel one. To me, that's disheartening.
Yeah.
This big nonprofit is giving you opportunity, and whether it's just not knowing or not investing the time, it wasn't taken seriously. But with PMI, we're looking for people, nonprofits, to partner with to fund some of this and give discounts to military spouses who want the PMP. We say take kickoff first, a free resource. See if you like project management, and if you do, here's ways to get resources like My CAA for the military. It's $4,000. Use those resources. You've got to apply for it. I get that. There is an application process, but apply for it. It's free money. It's that kind of stuff that we have to keep pushing because, like in the military, Howie, as a commander, because I work retention. Every 2 years, the commanders change. So you got to rebrief people, rebrief. The military spouse is the same way. They get on LinkedIn, they get off LinkedIn. They get on Facebook, back to LinkedIn. We have to rebrief this all the time. So even content you push out for the military spouses, repost that same stuff because someone didn't see that.
Right.
Your network grows. You can repurpose content. Just keep talking about it. Don't let anyone deter you from, sharing your messages.
Hey, Matt, I would actually love to talk to you more about, you just mentioned it, partnering with VSOs or nonprofits. We'll do this off camera, but I would love to talk to you more about that. That's fascinating to me. And I'd like to hear more about that, after we're done with the episode. Yeah. Hey, Lee, I apologize. I've been kind of hogging the mic here. I'm sure you got and every bit of that is intentional, right? So
I would be upset if it wasn't, Howard. That's the type of camaraderie that we share. I wrote some notes out here, Matt, but we talk every episode about the transition and how it's similar to college transition or leaving sports transition. And we have identified that how important purpose is and how important faith is. And I just like to reiterate every episode. It doesn't matter who you are. If you are in the military, you have a heightened and amplified understanding of purpose, even might be subconsciously, right? You might not even realize you have that. The civilian world, unfortunately, is not built that way right now. It is built on money first, purpose second. The reason I love the military so much is because they're so trained to change that. Great organizations will understand that and give their employees a purpose. Quick example, and I've learned this from the show. I've learned this from being a military spouse. One of the questions I ask when I'm interviewing people, this is advice for any business owners out there. It's the first question I ask is, how can we help you accomplish your goals and what are they? Right? I'm not going to assume that their life goal is to work for me, right? And if it is, that's great. Well, we can make that happen, right? Fair. But it's not usually. It's I want to be here. I want to be doing this. Or sometimes, Matt, it might be I just want to figure out what I want to do, right? If I don't know that as the employer, I'm actually doing a disservice to really all my employees, not even just the person coming in. So for anybody transitioning, a few just kind of quick tips. Understand the importance of purpose and understand that you might not know where that purpose lies right away, even if you think you do. And understand too, Matt, you kind of said this, you might get out and say, well, I want to do this and realize you hate it 3 weeks in. You might hate it. All right. That's okay. Like I tell graduating college students this all the time. I tell retiring athletes, it's okay to not know, but like you did, Matt, it's like, you got to try different things. You'll find your way. And even when you do find your way, you might do something for 10 years and I don't want to do this anymore. That's okay. But you said it though, people fear change, right? But understand how important it is that you know what it is to have a purpose. Understand that you know what it is, obviously, to work in a team and how valuable those aspects are really to the civilian world. You said you want to serve other people. That's something I see a lot with a lot of veterans, and it's something we could use in society a bit more, right? So I would say both understand to everybody transitioning, you have that kind of superpower, and if you're an employer, understand how to utilize that superpower because we need it.
Let me take that one step further. It's not. I think it's more than just understanding that about a purpose. It's knowing it's defining what your purpose is.
Right.
What do you put? I mean, and this is not easy, but take some time, do some serious, deep self-reflection of what motivates you, what inspires you. Why do you think you've been put on this earth? What will get you if you're doing something and it gets you up in the morning and you just can't wait to get after it, right? I mean, what is that for you? And figure it out and do it. Now, whether you're doing it full time, you're doing it part time, you're doing it as in a charitable way, whether you're getting paid or not, but if you find your purpose, if you understand what your purpose is and you replace the military purpose that you had in uniform, I will tell you, and this is based on statistical data and research from the Department of Veteran Affairs, that will go a long way in helping you put your feet planted firmly on the ground in your transition and landing softly. Understanding what your purpose is, what motivates and inspires you, is so critical to succeeding in the rest of your life.
And I would say this too, with military transition, which is the major topic of our show, I agree, but this is a life thing. This is at any point in your life. It doesn't matter where you're at. You could be down and out in any scenario. I'd say 10 times out of 10, depending on the situation, a lack of purpose is part of the culprit of why people are severely depressed or in a tough spot, right? So Howie, I agree with you 100%. Defining that, and again, knowing it could change.
Yep.
Like I said, Howie is a driven man right now. He has his purpose. You said it many times on this show, and you can see it. All right, buddy. So keeping this moving along. Could you tell us a little bit about Army reenlistment?
So I was working in the Pentagon. I was still young. I was in the Pentagon for a few years. And one day I saw this guy in line, and he had a badge that I didn't know what it was. So I said, "Hey, what's that badge?" I asked a question. He goes, "It's a career counselor badge." I'm like, "What's a career counselor?" I've been in now I already reenlisted twice in the military. I didn't know what a career counselor was. But these people reenlist us. I had no idea what they were, though. So I said, "Well, how do you get that badge?" He said, "Well, you go through school, blah, blah, blah." I'm like, "Cool, I want to be a career counselor." And he says to me, "I can train you." I'm like, "That's so cool, So I worked in the Army's Chief of Staff office. I worked in the E-Ring. I worked with General Shinseki. I didn't have time to do this. I worked shift work. I worked 6 a.m. till noon or 11 until close. So I use some of my hours to go train to be a career counselor. As I was leaving the Pentagon, I went to the Army Career Counselor School because I asked, "Can I be a career counselor?" With a little bit of struggle, because this career field isn't the best when it comes to bringing new people in. I didn't serve as a retention NCO, so I bypassed a few things by working in the Pentagon. So I got to school, and as I'm in school, I saw a few people struggling with PowerPoint, with formatting words. Now I was good at that. At being HR, I was good at that. So I created a small website for the class to share information. And I just called it Army Reenlistment because it was a nerd thing. So I created it. It was a one-page thing. I would share information. Then my instructors got word that I was helping people out too much. I said, "What the fuck does that even mean? What does that mean?" So they said, "Don't do the work for them." I'm like, "They're doing the work. I'm formatting it so they get better grades because I'm good at this." So so a few times they would tell me, "You know what, you're doing too much, stop doing this." At one point, I was pulled out of class. They said, "You have to take the site down." So I'm telling you, Howie and Lee, I grew my balls. I said, "You can't make me to .com. I own this." So from that point on, it seemed like they targeted me, but I still graduated, almost topped my class. No, I didn't get any awards for it, but academic top of my class. But from that point on, I wasn't gonna take shit because I knew that this was important. I left class, I got my badge, I earned my badge. I was certified as a career counselor. Then I grew this site for one purpose, not for these career counselors I really couldn't stand sometimes. My peers, I didn't even like because of that crap right there. I grew this site for the people that needed it, the soldiers and their families. That's why I do this site. And I have a small team now. I have a small team of 6 people. I said the purpose of the site is to focus on the soldiers and their families. Don't worry about naysayers. This site was dogged for years, and I never put my name on the site. I didn't want to associate with my name or my rank. I was a staff sergeant. I was a sergeant first class. I was a mass sergeant. I didn't want people knowing who ran this site because they couldn't talk down to it or me. So when I become a sergeant major, people say, "Oh, that's Sergeant Major Quick Sight." Oh, now it's cool because I Sergeant Major runs it. The last 10 fucking years, I ran this site and no one cared about it. But the rank gave me respect for the site. But now, and even I was at the academy, and I had this peer of mine, this soon-to-be peer of mine. He called the Pentagon to tell me not to put stuff on the site. And it wasn't pre-decisional stuff. It was already out in public. His words to the Army's top career counselor was, "Matt's putting out things too fast to people. We don't have enough time to tell our people what's going on yet." That is not my problem. That's your problem. Do better. I had to go through ethics training at the academy because this dumbass called and told the commandant's office that I was putting out information that I shouldn't be putting out. I said, "What information did I put out?" "Well, we don't know, but here, go see a lawyer at First Armor Division for ethics training." I despised the academy because they treated me like this in a way that I was pretty pissed, actually. But Army reenlistment started because I was helping people out, and it grew because I wanted to help more people out. But again, for years, I was dogged, and people were like, "Well, you make money off the site." Yes, I make about $200 on the site for Google ads every month that go back into the site. So don't give me that crap. But that's the story of Army reenlistment. I wanted to help people, and it grew from helping people. That's all it was.
Oh, Matt, I love you, man. I love you. So don't tell me to talk slower, listen faster. Don't tell me to stop putting information out, get your shit done, right? Pick up the pace, get your shit done, right? And don't tell me what to do, because I'm just trying to help people, and I'm not going to stop helping people because you don't like what I'm doing. I love you, man.
Howie, that reminds me when we talked to Brad Thomas, and he said he didn't give himself fully to the military.
Exactly.
Matt, this is something we talked about on the show, is that identity is also a big part of problematic transition. The loss of identity.
Yep.
And we interviewed a man named Brad Thomas, who he's a rock star. He doesn't like to be called that, but he is. He has a band. Similarly, it's a great episode we did with him where he has a heavy metal rock band and donates all of their proceeds back to the military and veterans. But he said, and you kind of said this too, he never fully gave himself to kind of what he was doing. And if I'm not mistaken, he was a Navy SEAL, correct?
No. He took the Ranger option when he enlisted.
Apologies.
He spent time in the 75th Ranger Regiment, and then he went to Delta. He was a Delta operator for the rest of his career.
Brad, if you're listening to this, don't come find me.
Yeah, JB Speedo is going to jump down your.
That's fine. JB hates it when we talk about the SEALs. The point was this: saving face here. He said that even in spite of all that, he always kept a part of himself separate. Right, that was his thing. It was him. It sounds like you did that too. Even though you had your purpose, you had your identity. You said, "No, this is me. This is mine, and I'm keeping this." I think for everybody listening, it's important to understand that it can be dangerous to put all of your identity into one basket, and it doesn't matter. Again, this is irrelevant of the military. It could be sports. It could be your job. If you put everything in one place, inevitably it is going to go away, or something's going to happen where you can't do it anymore. That's why it's so important to have some identity that you own, right? Yep. Did you want to jump into that?
Yeah, well, listen, I think it's important, and that's a really, really important point, and I appreciate you bringing this up, Lee, is that, look, all of us, and look, the message here is not not be loyal to the military, to not be loyal to your chain of command, to Absolutely not be loyal to your unit, to not be loyal to your work colleagues. That is your requirement, right? However, you are more than just that man and woman in uniform, whether you're Marine, Air Force, Navy, Army, it doesn't matter. You are someone's son. You are someone's daughter. If you're married, you're someone's wife. You're someone's husband. If you have kids, you're someone's father. If you have brothers and sisters, you're someone's brother. You're someone's sister. You know, you're part of a religious community. You're part of a sports whatever. There is more to your identity than just being the man or woman in uniform. And this is another thing. The folks who don't look at it that way, they think their entire identity and their entire sense of purpose is built on their time in uniform. When they take that, and listen, everybody takes your uniform off at some point.
At some point.
I don't care if it's after 4 years, 34 years. I don't care if you're an E4 or you're a 4-star general. Everybody's career comes to an end at some point. And if you don't have some other part of your identity that you can identify with, and it's solely focused on your time in uniform, you're going to have a problem, and you need to address that right now.
You know, I just want to take it one step further too, Howie. I always like to acknowledge when some of these issues or scenarios are not limited to just the military, so that the people listening realize how you're not alone, right? And what Howie's talking about, every military veteran is going to go through this. But again, in sports, I have gone through this actually multiple times, right? Having been an athlete. And to combine the two worlds together, look, when we left our final station and transitioned out of the military, I was in a position where I was extremely well known in the hockey sphere of where I was, both as a professional coach and an athlete. And I remember we came back to the United States, and suddenly that wasn't there. And it took me, I'm an ice hockey player, it really took me 5 years, keeping in mind the pandemic happened in that.
Yeah.
So normally it wouldn't take that long, but it took me 5 years to really find a team and a community I felt comfortable with again, right? I played with lots of different teams. I had to find the right group of people. It wasn't easy. And there were times I was playing for teams like, I don't really like these guys. Like, I don't want to be around these guys. Aren't even having fun, you know? And I had to really continually be patient and search that out. And like I said, I'm at a point now where the group I'm with, I'm very comfortable with, but
yeah, but they don't like you, Lee.
Oh, they love me, Howie. They love me. I'll bring them on the show. No, and listen, that's irrelevant too. I don't really care if they like me. No, seriously, I have found a group now that I'm very comfortable with. The point I'm making is that this is a human element, right?
Yeah.
This is a human thing that we all deal with, and that you're not just going to snap your fingers and find a community equal to that of the military. In fact, I would say this is where I talk about this every episode. It's the greatest team on the planet. You are not going to find that again when you transition. That shouldn't depress you. The reason I'm saying that is that you are going to have to actively find a community to help you move forward, to fill that gap. And it will help tremendous amounts, right? Howie and I talk about the Pivotal Moments media community all the time. And it's an amazing group of people. I look forward to the meetings with these people because they're like-minded. We're on the same mission. We have a purpose. We identify through our work together. But this is something you're going to have to seek out. You're going to have to talk to people and network. And I'm not even talking about jobs right now, right, Matt? I'm just talking about people. We cannot do this by ourselves, right? Human beings, introverts and extroverts, are not meant to be alone. We are not built that way. So I just wanted to make that point.
Have your small tribe, because you're going to need them.
Yeah.
It could be to get you through a job interview. It can get you to do a job search. It can get you through life itself. There are some days, or there were some days that I would have a job or not have a job, and I would be like, what am I doing every day? So I would go watch TV for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, and just say, what the hell am I doing? So mental health is real. That we'll get into that, but it's a real part of your transition as well.
Absolutely.
Hey, let me share a story I just learned literally last week, right? So this goes beyond just the veteran, right? Think about the spouse. So I'm going to keep this very anonymous, but someone that I know and respected beyond description had what I thought was the perfect marriage, and they got divorced. And what happened was, when this veteran retired, he was able to immediately take on an executive position in a very large and successful organization. So, he almost didn't miss a beat, right? Well, comes to find out that his spouse, her entire identity was as his wife, and she didn't have any real friends. And when he was no longer in the military and they were no longer around the military community, she whether it's the wives' coffees, family support group, whatever it was, she lost all of that. Nobody stayed in touch with her, right? And so she went into deep depression, which ultimately led to, over a course of a number of years, them getting divorced. So this is not just the veteran. This is also has an impact on the spouse and on the children of those military couples.
Great point, Howie.
Go ahead.
Real quick, this is one thing that people don't talk about when they leave the military is how often you're contacted by your old unit or old friends. You're not.
It doesn't happen. Yeah.
The Army goes moving along. People have lives. They have to keep moving along. You're on your own unless you build that network. I've got a few friends in the military that I talk to often, but from my old unit, not one person contacted me since I've been gone. Not a big deal, but it would be for some people that need that rank and that power, prestige. They need that. It goes away quickly, though.
Well, look, I want to say this too. Introverts, extroverts, right? I think two of the three of us are extroverts. I'll let you guys figure out who isn't. But the point I'm making here is that both of those scenarios are actually okay, right? If you need that community, that's okay. But you should know that you need that community and search it out. Howie, speaking to the spouse as a former spouse, as a spouse veteran, if you will, the spouse community is so important to us because there are very few people outside of the military that can understand what we're going through. They just don't understand. They don't understand what it's like to move every 3 years. They don't understand what it's like to pick up the slack, to meet a new community, to be in different places around the planet. All right. It's tough to explain. I assume that's very similar to what active duty military members go through. How could you possibly explain that to someone who's never been in that position, including spouses? Right. But we go through it too. And the trick is this. Look, it's funny how you're making me realize this. I own a successful business. My business partner is another male military spouse, and I trust him as much as I trust my family, right? Because we share a bond that not many people are going to understand. Not the fact that we're both the lowest rank in the military as male military spouses, but the fact that we're also, we went through that together and we had to raise our kids. Like, and again, I don't want to get into it too much, but it's like, look, being a male military spouse, raising your children in a military environment can be a very lonely island. And even I would even go as far to say a lot of the female military spouses can't relate to that either. Right. So my point is there's a community there. And when that is lost from a marriage standpoint, it can be devastating. Now,
one thing what happened to them, man.
Right. One thing I'm very thankful,
nobody saw it coming.
My wife and I communicate in a very Northeast way. We bicker a lot, but we communicate a lot. All right. And we've never been afraid to kind of share feelings and almost sometimes viscerally, but we talk. Right. And one of the things that I remember learning is that I have to communicate accurately to her that although I did a good job probably hiding this, that, I had to kind of stop my whole life to help her pursue her goals. And I do not regret that one bit. There's never been a day in my life where I've looked at our service and thinking, man, I wish I hadn't done that. I'm so thankful for it. But at the same time, that was 10 years of my life where we weren't exactly following my dreams and goals, right? I gotta say it again, which is fine. I made that choice. I own that, right? But I also don't want that to not be forgotten or acknowledged at times, right? Just to understand.
But how many female spouses, military spouses, did exactly the same thing? And there's a much higher number of those, right?
And higher years, like you said, 30, 40 years. Yeah. So my point is, I'm bringing this up just to kind of inspire. I'm doing it long-winded. How you took so much mic time earlier. I'm just kind of making up. But I'm doing it kind of long-winded. But the point I'm trying to make is,
okay, we'll just edit this stuff out. You don't worry about it.
Yeah, no, it's great. Look, you know what we need to edit out is when I said Navy SEALs over Delta Force. I still feel bad about that.
No, I'm leaving that in for JP, man.
Yeah. There's the controversy we needed to get more listeners. Look, the broad point I'm trying to make is that both sides of the aisle here, active duty, spouse, whatever, You have to try and put yourself in that other person's position for a moment, have the conversation. I think one of the bravest things an active duty military member can do, man or female, is go to their spouse and say, listen, hey, how do you feel about our service? How do you feel about your time in the service? Is there anything I can do for you? I had this conversation with my wife when we got out. And again, my wife is a physician and a high-powered physician in Philadelphia. And I remember having a conversation, hey, I'd like to pursue some of my goals now. Can we make a plan to do that? There was no resentment. There was no, I followed you for 10 years, it's my turn. I just said, I would like to pursue some of these goals. Can we have a discussion about that? All right, and find a way forward together. I'm going to say this again. My wife and I communicate very well. All right, that's probably not normal. All right, but how you said it, lack of communication, pursuing goals, not understanding where the other person's coming from, loss of the entire community. And again, as military spouses, man, it can be tough. The point is, communicate. Your spouse, your family is the number one community, right? And you have to maintain that. And the military is so built on selfless service towards each other. Everyone can do this. You can bring it in internally and grow from there. But the most stress I've seen people go through is when they not just loss of community, the loss of their family. All right. It's very easy when you have kids to put your head down for 18 to 20 years, look up, and you don't know the person you're looking at anymore.
Yeah.
Yep.
Across from you. It's very easy to do that.
I'm going to shift here a little bit because this is kind of important to me, and I know it's very important to Matt. So Matt, when doing a little bit of research, I learned about the Dylan Quick Foundation that you serve as the executive director there. And I know it, and listen, whatever you're comfortable sharing, right? But if whatever context you want to give our audience of how this foundation came about, what you're doing, what it stands for, whatever you're comfortable sharing, I would love for you to share freely with the audience.
My brother's son, my sister-in-law's son, was diagnosed with Ewing sarcoma back in 2014. I had just arrived at my first station as a sergeant major in Fort Drum, New York. I was out for a run. I get the call. He's got cancer. Okay, cool. We're gonna beat this. No big deal, right? So treatments, operations, loss of internal organs, loss of a toe, which Dylan was cool with. You know, he lost a toe. He was cool with because it's something. It's a showpiece he can show. So we went through 5 years of this, and this is one of the reasons I retired so quickly from the military. 25 years doesn't seem fast, but when I wake up one day, it was like June of 18. My wife's dad is dying. Her mom already died just a couple years before that, and my nephew was dying too. I'm like, I can't do it at all anymore. So I woke up one day. We had the conversation. I went to my boss. I said, I'm retiring. I said, I'm done in 2 months.
Wow.
They said 2 months. I said, I'm taking 5 months. 3 months is my leave. I'm taking 2 months to transition, but I'm done. Tried to talk me into it. I get that, but I was at the Force Comp headquarters, Howie. I was the top of the top.
Oh, wow.
I had a plan in place. I gave it to someone that's already there in Fort Bragg. So it was a good transition for the military. But my wife and I went on a retired in January of 19. We went on a trip. We flew to San Antonio and drove back to Fort Bragg. Something we enjoyed doing. I get back, my brother calls. He goes, "It's time." So we go to a Greenville hospital.
Oh, geez.
He was 14 until 19, battling cancer. He lost his whole childhood to cancer. So we get back and we go to Greenville, and we're in a hospital for a day and a half. And as he's laying on his deathbed, I hate saying that, but I asked my sister-in-law, I said, would you mind if we created this to keep his memory alive? I don't like when people die and we forget about them. I hate that. So I asked her a question, and we asked Dylan, and he was cool with it. He loved it. So he passed away of January 26th of 19. We established the foundation 2 weeks later. And what the foundation does now, and listen, I found it for my sister-in-law. She needed this. This was her coping mechanism. My brother, he needed to work. He was a sheriff's deputy in Craven County, North Carolina. It still is. And she needed this right here. So I did it for her and to keep his memory alive. So what we did so far was we had 2 softball tournaments. We fund, I think it's 4 scholarships now per year from his high school. We have an award from his high school named after the Dylan Quick Foundation in honor of someone that really gives back to the community in the school. And every December now, for the past 3 Decembers, we take a U-Haul truckload of toys to the same hospital that treated him for years in his name, in his memory. So we go out there and do that. So again, this foundation raises money, raises awareness to give back to kids that don't really have the fight, and the parents too, because it is draining. Going to the hospital every day is draining. Operations, I think he had like 8 or 10 operations. So we try to give back and we keep his name alive.
Yeah.
So this is what it's about. So DylanQuickFoundation.org, that's where we're at. And we, like, for his birthday, we raise, I think this year we'll raise $23 per person. His 23rd birthday. It's that kind of stuff every year, that same thing. November 30th, every year we'll raise one specific dollar amount per person. And it all goes back to giving back to toys, to scholarships, all that. We don't keep a dime of this, which is a good thing.
And God bless both of you, man. You know, that's awesome, Matt.
Not easy, but it's worth it.
Yeah,
Yeah, man,
absolutely.
I'll tell you that I can't imagine anything worse on the planet than losing a child. But
Yeah.
I'm always inspired and amazed how people navigate through the pain, because there's no way out of it, by doing good for others. In any scenario where pain is felt to this level, which is unimaginable, it just seems like the way to, I don't know the right word, but the way to sail through the pain or with the pain is to help others along the way. I think it's such an important lesson. You know, I keeping his name, you know, in memory here, it's something I've seen congruently across the board of people in immense amounts of pain. They find a way through or to live with it by giving back to other people. I think that's such an important lesson. And you know, people like your nephew, you know, Dylan, that they're the stewards of this. You know what I mean? And I love that you said keep their name alive. You're right. That's amazing.
Thank you for sharing it, man.
It's hard, but again, it's worthwhile though.
Cool.
So
Everything worth doing is hard, right?
yeah.
Like, you know, I always reminded that quote from A League of Their Own where Tom Hanks goes, "It's the hard that makes it great. If it wasn't hard, nobody would do it." Right? Turning this to the lighter side now. Matt, it's commonplace on this show. I give every guest a book title. So if you were going to write a book, I come up during the show with the titles that you can use, right? We take no royalties if you end up doing this. But I got a few for you. I know the one that it's going to be because I'm looking at it right here. But before the episode, I wrote, y'all want some water? Because we're talking about how you're living in the South now. You're trying to say y'all. And in the Northeast, for those who don't know, we don't use teas up here. It's a little water, not a little water. But I also like that you said today, rank gave me the respect for the site. There's just some kind of ring to that. But your book title, sir, this one is strong. It's Listen Faster and Do Better. The Matt Quick story. That's it. Listen faster and do better. I would pick that up. It reminds me to pay you compliments. I remember where Schwarzenegger, he gives a great speech about the keys for life. And he talks, you like sleep. I'm not going to do the accent. You like sleep, but you want 8 hours? He goes, sleep harder, sleep faster.
There you go.
That's what it reminded me. He's like, sleep better. Don't tell me you need more sleep. Sleep harder. But no, listen faster and do better. You gotta say it with an accent. Listen faster and do better. Like,
yeah, do better.
Do better. All right. So that's your book title. Okay. The last question we're going to ask you. Look, everybody deals with mental fitness, mental strength, mental illness sometimes, right? We all deal with it on some level. We always ask our guests, how do you practice mental fitness daily? What advice do you have for other people? Are there experiences that you've had where you've really had to tap into that? We just went through one, obviously. But how important is mental fitness to you, to your family, in moving forward in your day-to-day life?
For me, it's having a schedule or routine. Whether it's getting up with a dog 3 o'clock in the morning to take him out, but
Right.
getting him at 6 o'clock for a walk, walking after dinner, just something to do. Get that, get a routine down pat, and you can always add to your routine. You can change your routine, but have a routine that helps you, especially getting out of the military, and trying to figure out what you want to do.
Right.
Having a routine helps that, because you'll find your passion. You'll find, and people say, well, start with your why. But if you start with the who, you may find your why faster. And my who was those that are transitioning, military or career transition. Now I get up every day, especially on Mondays, TGIM. Thank God it's
That's
Monday.
great.
I can get back to
Oh,
work.
man, that's a better book title than I came
I'm
up
sorry
with.
about
Don't
that. I was
keep doing
keeping
that.
that one.
TGIM. I'm taking that one. I'm just kidding. Go. That's good.
But that right there, you find who you want to focus on. You'll find your passion. You'll find your purpose, and you'll get out of bed every day wanting to make a difference.
Brilliant.
That's what it's about.
That's a brilliant answer. And you're reminding me too. Everyone we ask has a slightly different answer, and some of them are drastically different. It goes to show you, everyone listening, everybody watching, there is no right way to do it.
No.
All right. There's multiple ways. There's a myriad of ways to do it. You kind of have to find what works for you. And we say all the time that we say mental fitness because we know people know what physical fitness is. When you go to a gym, you have the routine that you like. You don't go to the gym and everyone does the same routine. That would be insane. Right. So you got to find the machines, you got to find the methods that work for you. Are you a yoga person or are you a heavy weights person? Like, I love it. You said schedule. I also love that you said find the who, right? Like you lead with the people, right? That's actually a really brilliant point. It's not what you do. I've said this so many times in my life to so many people. It's never what you do. It's who you do it with.
Yeah.
I'm going to repeat that. It's never what you do. It's who you do it with. I have had jobs at the mecca of hockey and hated my life because the people were so horrible, right? And I love hockey, all right? It's not what you do, it's who you do it with. And I'll add to that, amend it, who you do it for.
Yeah.
Who is the person next to you that you're willing to do it for? Identify that. That's a point we've never had on this show, at least not that way. Identify that. Man, this was a fantastic interview. Howie did say that before, and he was right.
I appreciate that.
I love it. I love that, joking back to making the bookends here, but I love that you're able to vocalize this stuff so clearly with that accent, the New York accent. And maybe we do talk.
Some hate it, some love it.
Maybe everyone else.
Oh, I love it, man. You just made my whole freaking month.
TGIM. I love that.
TGIM.
No, fantastic interview, buddy. I can't thank you enough for being here with us today.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and let me just say, listen, Matt, I told you this before we came on camera. I'll tell you this on camera. And I know we have not personally spoken a lot, but I will tell you, I have so much admiration and respect for you and what you do. There are a number of people in this military transition workspace that I have a lot of respect for. I don't know that I respect anybody more than I respect you. And again, it's because in the last 18 months, I've spent a lot of time in this space. I'm learning every day. I continue to learn, but and I try to manage the amount of time I spend on different platforms because I know that can affect my own mental fitness. Yep. But if I see something posted by Matt Quick, I stop and I pull it up and I read it and I reread it. And most times I comment on it because I just think this man, look, it came out in this interview. Everything you've done in your life is because you cared about others and wanted to serve others. And I cannot think of any greater purpose in life than serving others. And you're a model for all of us. You set the bar very high for all of us. It is an absolute honor and a privilege to have you on this show. And I hope we have many, many more conversations after this.
Another fantastic episode of Life After the Military. Again, we're powered by Pivotal Moments Media. If you're enjoying the show, if you're a fan of the show, please give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. It really helps us grow. We receive value as the host, but we know that you do too. So all of that really helps us a lot. And also check out our website, pivotalmomentsmedia.com. Take the time to check it out, that we have other channels there. So this one's focused obviously on the military. We have other channels focused on adversity in sports, women inspiring other women, building mental fitness in the workplace, musical artists, actual artists, painting artists. We have it all, right? We're really trying to build something, and the people behind this really, really believe in what we're doing, and so does this whole team. So check it out, pivotalmomentsmedia.com. I also want to give one more shout out to Matt. Make sure that Matt, correct me if I said this wrong, but it's DylanQuickFoundation.org, correct?
That's right.
To donate and find out more information about that obviously very worthy cause. But for Howie and Matt, I'm Lee. That's going to do it for this edition of Life After the Military. We'll see you on the next one. Have a wonderful day. And remember, TGIM and TGIT and the rest of the week. Have a great one, everybody.